nonprofit farming is a tough business. There are a lot of nonprofit farms here. New Paltz area is one of the hubs for that. And I think that when you ask the structure question, the actual structure of decision making, power, control, who signs the lease, who negotiates with the landlord, who makes decisions, who talks to CSA members, who recruits. It's a very hard business. And that structure issue, if you really want that farm to be a viable business year after year, doing whatever its mission is, whether it's primarily production or food or something more eclectic and representing that farmer, I'd like to have all of us go out and think about that farmer turnover issue. And it's an issue much beyond Brook Farm.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I'd like to read from the petition that Schmarling citizens drew up. This was drawn up by Claire Altman, who's a lawyer and experienced in this. And the conclusion, what we are proposing, the undersigned residents of New Paltz and surrounding communities petition the town of New Paltz to return the property to the tax rolls until there is satisfactory proof that the Glenwood incubator will not adversely impact the environment or New Paltz's budget and demonstrate how the town of New Paltz will benefit, justifying a tax abatement on the property. This goes, it seems to me, to the core, which is that they need to take it off the rolls, and we are proposing. Now, can that be done? This is one approach, which is to go directly to our local governments and see what we can do to make sure that they are working on our side. Yes, you're here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah, I did. I have a thought. One thing I'm not hearing is the evidence of a power analysis. When there's adversaries and when someone is making a move against someone else, it's important for let's say the people in the position of Brook Farms to do a power analysis. That's an activist term from the Northwest Organizing Academy. What power do you actually have? There's all kinds of power. If you have a member of a board, they can make a motion. If you have people, you have nuisance power. You can block a street. You can refuse to leave. If you have money, you have the financial power. If you have access to media, you have media power. Petitions aren't really an expression of power. They're just an expression of an opinion. And I think what really is lacking here is a power analysis, and it can be done at the end. A lot of chess games are won. Well, they're all won with the last move. And I think you need that. I think you need some real organizers who really know what they're doing. I think your friend's letter was brilliant. There needs to be, I know there's been all this fluff talk of being nice and civil, but what may be appropriate is civil disobedience. Anyone convincing you to be nice is also convincing you to give up your power. And I think we need to be leery of that kind of anesthetization that can happen. And a lot of what gets pulled over on us is pulled over on us through the very charming lawyers who have vast amounts of money and maybe represent themselves as a notary public, and they come and steal from an old lady. Case in point.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to ask, that's really, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, in the past several months.
And I'll go over that with you, and I can connect you to people who can help you with it.
Well, I'm just wondering, what is the purpose of civility? I mean, when you are civil, what do you get in the end, especially in terms of negotiating? Because I've experienced this in many different ways, and there is something that you can get with civility that you can't get.
You are demonstrating civility right now. It's your approach to things. It's how you talk to people. It's the impression you make on people. That's the kind of people we need in this community. People like you, with a good heart, with good intention. So that's civility, in my opinion.
And Lisa, I mean, ask Gandhi if you want to know what civility can produce. That's the model, and it's what you're doing. It's you're speaking to us with what you know, and also admitting to what you don't know. I will admit to you what I know.
Look at Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Well, the some might say, look at Malcolm X.
Absolutely, and.
But then look at Annenberg too, he sits there and talks real nice too.
But I think this, what you're doing is what we're asking, and again, it's understanding what we know and what we don't know too. What Kevin is saying is there's a lot we don't know and a lot we need to change. And it's not it's all the non-for-profits, it's a community here that is suffering from many different issues. And one of the biggest ones is a lot of our land we are unable to collect taxes to, and yet we're paying the bills for them. We need to find a way to tax them fairly. Now, there is a value to open space. There's a tremendous value to farms. We need the farms.
Except the problem
And in the
with that,
future, we're
sorry.
going to need more and more farms.
I'm
So
sorry.
it's how do you speak to that people like us who are not farmers can understand and also can relate that value. It's kind of like trying to relate the value of wetlands. No one really understands the true value of wetlands until they destroy your land. Same with farms. People don't understand the value of farms until they don't have a good food source. And that is the conversation, and that's the civil conversation. No one here is trying to say, or shouldn't be saying that anyone's evil. And I don't want to look at the dark side, but what is the alternative here? Would everyone here prefer that those 850 acres were sold to a private developer, which they very well could have?
But Jeff, that's a
And then-
scare tactic. That was
I
never
just-
an option. It was
How
never
did I
an
just,
option.
how did I just preface that comment? I preface that comment with simply by stating, Chris, is that what we prefer, we understand the value of open space in this community. So that open space, though, has a value both to the people holding the open space and to the people in this community. Doesn't mean that they should get off without paying a fair share for all of us to have that open space. To Kevin's point, why are we paying 3-4 times for the same property? So, and that's, listen,
But I just say that civility is also in action. Is it going to be civil if Open Space Institute evicts Brook Farm without really communicating with them? That civility is also in
Excuse
action.
me, we have someone here who hasn't spoken yet.
I have two questions. My name is Jan Schuster, I live in New Paltz. Two questions. One, was anybody from OSI invited to be here? Answer the question, why is Brook Farm being kicked off? And my other question, is there anything that OSI has to go through from a planning standpoint in front of the town?
Yes.
yes.
So is that a question that can be raised at that planning meeting? Why
It's
Brook
gonna be raised
Farm is being kicked
tomorrow.
off?
Not the farm, but as we said, is there going to be more subdivision
Why
up
not the
there?
farm? I mean, that's what we hear. The issue is, do we want to preserve Brook Farm?
What we have to do is this, we have to have the preserve indicate to all of us what their plan is for the future. I mean, realistically.
Is it the
How many-
Bird Preserve or
Let me
OSI?
explain. The preserve have to articulate their plan. Do they want another 2,000 acres, or 3,000 acres, or do they need 5,000 acres? What is their plan going forward? We need that to be revealed to us now. We need OSI to reveal what they're intending now, so that we can have this dialogue to work together to create a solution. If they're not willing to reveal, and everything is cloak and dagger, then we as elected officials have to say, there's a wall. And we have to wait until there's some kind of dialogue, until we can get your input and come up with a solution.
There's really not much time, is there?
Well, there's not much time on both sides. There's not much time on the planning side either.
I was at the board meeting when Mohawk came to get funding. And they put on their presentation. At that meeting, it was raised, the question was raised, are you going to compete with the town of people with farms? Are you going to have cattle there? Are you going to take away the rights of other people that are working on land? And Mohawk Reserve stood there and said, absolutely not, never. I was at that board meeting, look at the record of the meeting. And they got the signature so they could get their funding, and here we are today. Pull up the old records of that meeting. I was at the meeting. I stand here today and I think, my God, now they're going to say, oh, no, it's not us, it's open space that's doing it, not us, or something like that. But look at the record. And also, they said they want the money to protect the land. Well, open space already bought it. It was protected. Or is that not true?
It's only
Open space
protected
gets
if
money.
Mohawk owns it.
Okay, Sally,
Yeah, I think that the questions about OSI are probably in the minds of many people. And having worked with this for a number of months, I know that Creek and Lisa have made every effort to engage with OSI repeatedly in the most
Civil.
thank you very much, civil way imaginable, if anything too civil in my view, because they were rebuffed at every turn. Just today, there was a meeting scheduled for 3:30, a phone meeting that Creek was supposed to talk with the poobahs from OSI and Mohawk and a variety of other,
OSI and Glenwood.
OSI and Glenwood, and some others too, I think, weren't there? In any case, they kept him waiting for over 2 hours with not so much as a, excuse me, but we're not going to have the meeting. And that is all too typical. And I urge you strongly, as a member of the town board, to pursue those very important questions. And to also let the town as a whole know what kind of responses you get. I expect your inquiries will be met with similar kinds of responses.
So, or lack of response.
Sally?
Yeah, so building on that, I think that what it would be good to end this meeting with is sort of like clear steps of what people can do to support, what are, you mentioned a few minutes ago something about tomorrow. Is there a meeting tomorrow?
I will
You
make
mean just-
phone calls, no, I will make phone calls tomorrow and try to set up a meeting
Okay.
and have a discussion.
That would be great, and if there are other, I think that that's what we need to focus on, kind of steps forward that people can get involved in. That would be really good, just if people have ideas about that.
Can I make a logistical statement? It's just that if you signed in on your way in, that we hoped everybody signed in and put their emails, at least we have a way of contacting people for future meetings. And obviously, if you don't want to receive those, let us know. But is that this one?
There's 3 of them.
We have, if you signed in at that table with your name and your email, then at least we have everybody who is potentially interested in getting involved and taking actions. But it would be nice, we do have to close the door here and be out by 10. So it would be nice, like Sally just suggested, if we could come up with some action that people can either make a committee or what do you think?
So what is the first action item?
We have a board meeting on October 17th and 17th.
Planning board?
It's a town board.
Town board.
And what do we have to bring there?
I think you should come and explain why your farm is so important to this community and why you should be able to stay where you are right now. I think you have to explain that.
Would it be advisable for a lot of CSA members to come to represent?
And get on the agenda, right?
I'll make sure you know.
Are there meetings prior to that
No.
should happen? We just go. Is there any other action item?
Well, you want to sign our petition, then I'll go to a lot, because that goes directly to the problem of finance.
There are 2 petitions up here, anyone who
And
wants
I
to sign them should
think
sign them
what
on
we
the way
have
out.
to consider is, Kevin, is there, what's happening to the gatehouse? Has that gone through?
I think you can speak to that.
I could say
It's
something
too
about
clear
this.
enough.
I also want to point out that on October 17th, actually, the Mohawk Reserve has 2 upcoming meetings. We have a procedural planning procedure. We wish people would honor our planning procedure. On October 17th, 100 dear neighbors of the Foothills property have been invited, just as we did the last time with the land meeting. And then on November 14th, there is a larger community meeting. The effort on October 17th is to get the input on a draft plan for some of the things that have been talked about. Not on the farms, because the preserve is only now has only signed a purchase agreement for 500 plus acres, Testimonial Gateway property, Humboldt Marsh, and Klein Hill Farm. Those are the only properties that we have signed a contract to purchase. We don't own them yet. We don't own them yet. In fact, folks, I want you to know we're actively fundraising $2.15 million to pay for the Testimonial Gateway, Humpo Marsh, and the Conoco Farm. If you'd like to write a check, we would welcome those checks. We have to pay OSI for these properties. We're not getting the properties free.
Don't forget to save somebody in the lawsuit.
Could you tell us why they're insisting on the 20 acres in the house? No, why they're in fact closing down Brook Farm? I mean, what's at stake at 28 acres is 20 acres and the house.
I can't explain it. This is an OSI Brook Farm Project issue. It's not a project that involves at this point Mohawk Reserve.
I think most of us find it hard to believe that you didn't know, and there were not all kinds of conversations going on around them, and that's hard to believe. It's hard to believe, yes.
Ron, what is the date of the
It's not
November
hard
or
to
something
believe.
meeting?
It's not hard to believe. I've been trying to meet with the board for 20 years, and they've been suing me for 20 years. Never once. When I tried to meet with the board of the Mohawk Reserve to discuss what was actually happening, they made incident reports and had me arrested for harassing them.
That's what you're dealing with.
That's what happened.
Okay, Marion?
Hi, Miriam Strauss, and my question is, and you sort of alluded to it, but so I sort of feel like it's the elephant in the room I shouldn't talk about. What, if anything, is the role of the Brook Farm board at this point in this negotiation? I mean, and this goes back very much to what Eric was saying, which is, where is the power? So I just...
I mean, from my, I think that moving forward in a way that takes care of self and continues the tradition of what the Brook Farm Project, the nonprofit organization, has been carrying forward for the past 10 years, I would not look to Brook Farm Project, the nonprofit organization, to move forward a continuance of the New Paltz community involvement in the 20 acres that we currently lease.
Basically, the board dropped out of the city. They have not been of any help. Paul, you want to say?
Yeah, I'll be more specific, perhaps explicit. The Brook Farm board has been chaired by Doc Smiley. Doc Smiley is a principal in the Smiley Brothers, Inc., which is the recipient of the payment for the lands that were sold. The Brook Farm board is playing both sides of the street, or at least certain members of the Brook Farm board play both sides of the street. And their responsibility to Brook Farm and its future does not appear to be the main thing that they're concerned about. Rather to work out the payment for the purchase of those lands that they're selling for the benefit of Mohawk Mountain House, as I understand it. And that appears to me to be a fundamental problem of several of the leaders of the Brook Farm Project board, that they have interests in the sale, and hence are not committed to looking out for the well-being of the Brook Farm Project. And if someone can correct me if I've gotten some of my facts wrong.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of high-level talk amongst all of the big wigs of all of these big organizations, it appeared to me, occurring over the summer. And the one of the outcomes of that is that the Smileys were not supposed to advocate for or against the continuation of Brook Farm Project. And so I think that focusing attention on the Smiley family and the future of this is not really an effective use of time.
But Lisa, we have to look at how was the board constituted. It was not elected by members. It was the board itself picks its own replacements when someone drops out, right? There's a real question there of democracy. One reason that the Friends of Brook Farm Project was set up is that we, more than almost any other group, speak for the people who buy their shares every month.
Well, I mean,
and I'm talking about people who have known this for 10 years, that they say that the Brook Farm Board has never shown a great interest in the requested. They refused to talk to us.
Well, and that goes to the structure of farm operations. That goes to the structure of nonprofit organizations in general. I mean, Brook Farm, the nonprofit organization, has been following its bylaws for the past 10 years, and that's simply how nonprofits are structured to do business.
They can't talk to us?
There are alternative ways of like cooperatives. I mean, we could have been a farm cooperative, and there would have been a different decision-making model.
Well, I'm not sure. Are there other ways of setting up a board?
That would be really interesting to look for nonprofit models where members of like vote on the board of directors.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a really interesting model.
That's a real standard.
Yes, no, okay. Mary, you're going to say...
Well, no, I used to be involved with Sustainable Hudson Valley, and the membership elected the board.
Oh, that happens with Clearwater, too.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's a problem, and then confronting, you're looking at the power. That's where the power is, and we haven't been able to approach it in any good way. Sally?
I think that it's kind of, I feel like people are starting to disperse, but I thought maybe we ought to try to wrap up, and that Creek and Lisa perhaps would like to sort of share some thoughts about how we can move forward.
Well, I would just say how beautiful it was to see a range of ages and experience and walks of life in the meeting tonight. It just really shows. I feel like Lisa and I made the right choice to come to New Paltz, basically. I mean, I've been in the Mid-Hudson Valley for a long time, so I knew it. I knew that, but it's really amazing to see it at work here. This is rare. I think this is really rare. As far as action steps forward, I mean, I think that with the emails we have, we will probably coordinate another meeting like this.
Yeah.
I expect. I don't know. I'm, you know, my role in this is to promote the good work that Brook Farm Project does. It's kind of complicated what I'm really even allowed to talk about at this point, but that is something I can definitely do. So, you know, I'm happy to keep holding, you know, get anyone together who wants to say, yes, this is important for our community, and we're willing to, you know, whether Brook Farm moves off that land or ends up staying on that land, it's going to continue to be a vital part of building a better food system in New Paltz and just returning a certain culture to agriculture here. So I'm content tonight.
If we're going to do anything, Creek, that's nice, it's a wonderful spirit, but we have to find a PowerPoint and exert it. Whether that's on the board or whether that's on the town board, we have to show up and we have to look at those. This is not going to be a nice game. They have rejected every effort. They have refused to talk and come out. All the way through. There have been letters and letters. They gave the Dale Hall meeting last time. They were going to schedule another one. They canceled it because they knew they couldn't answer the questions and it would be bad. They have tried to wait this out. No, we've got to find, I think the town boards around there in all 5 towns, that has to be one center of careful focus. We have to identify the members of the board who are really, or whose allegiance is really with the mountain and the preserve, and because town boards can facilitate, they can slow things down, and we have to look at that environmental and demand.
I'm honoring what you need to do here to move forward. I'm just saying,
I feel like you have to speak for you.
We've talked about action steps.
Yeah.